Many of you may be familiar with Gabrielle as she comes to address our club every year and has so for the last 6-7 years now, I think, to provide, and usually she provides an annual update on the activities and latest updates from the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Washington. As many of you know, our club's foundation has an endowment called the Jelliff Fund, named after Frank Jelliff, a Washington, D.C. Rotarian many years ago who helped found the Jelliff Club, which was then called the Boys Club of Greater Washington. Us girls got a lot of short shrift back in the day. And in fact, the club in Georgetown is named in his honor. And I do know Gabrielle gave me a sneak peek. She has some news about that club that she's going to need us to assist with. Just briefly, Gabrielle Webster is a visionary thought leader and youth development expert who's sparking positive change as president and CEO of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Washington. As a skilled convener who engages communities, business leaders, philanthropists, and partners in service of capital area youth and their families, she has put to use her strategic planning, management abilities, and development skills to fuel unprecedented growth for the Boys and Girls Clubs since she joined the organization in 2017. As an aside, I have been sort of from afar watching the progress. I get the newsletter, and it's an absolutely true statement, and we look forward to hearing more. Under her leadership, the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Washington, which serves more than 21,000 youth, is exceeding financial goals and achieving record accomplishments. Gabrielle is the driving force behind a first ever $30 million comprehensive campaign. Gabrielle also tripled the number of clubs in the metro area, earning the Boys and Girls Clubs the distinction of Greater Washington, the distinction of being among the top 5% of all Boys and Girls Clubs of America affiliates in the nation. And in 2022, some of you may remember, the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Washington celebrated its first National Youth of the Year in over 75 years. Gabrielle is further blazing new trails with plans for a flagship center of transformation at the nation's Boys and Girls Club, which will serve as an incubator to pilot and implement innovative programs across local sites and ideally the Boys and Girls Club of America movement. Gabrielle has a depth of leadership experience as a nonprofit and public sector professional with a track record of growth and exceeding expectations. Prior to joining the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Washington, she raised more than $220 million as part of her leadership roles at 3 large nonprofit organizations which operate in the Washington metropolitan area, the Mid-Atlantic region, and at the national level. Gabrielle was selected by Washingtonian Magazine as the 2022 Washingtonian of the Year. She was also a National Science Foundation Fellow, a National Biomedical Symposium Fellow, and a Polaroid Scholar. Interestingly, she earned her Bachelor of Science degree in chemistry from Xavier University and a Master of Physical Chemistry degree from Atlanta University. She's also a graduate of Leadership Greater Washington and was recently awarded a Harvard Business School Executive Education Certificate for Strategic Agility and Inclusive Leadership. She and her husband reside in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. They have 1 daughter. Please give Gabrielle a warm Rotary welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see you. Jennifer, there's nothing left for me to say. Thank you for those warm and very kind words. It has been 7 years. I started at Boys and Girls Clubs May 8th of 2017. And as I think through that time, COVID has been a big part of that during COVID and after COVID. So it's been an interesting challenge and time for, I think, for all of us. You know, I never do a PowerPoint because I think frankly, I find them boring. So I hope you don't disagree with me, but I'd like to just really talk to you about what's going on, what we're doing, and then take questions from you all, things that may be relevant or important to you, instead of just putting up a slide. Boys and Girls Clubs is an institution in this community. We were founded in 1886. We were the Boys Club, and we were the Boys Club until the 70s when we finally got smart as an organization and brought girls in. And we were the first club in the nation to change our name officially to the Boys and Girls Clubs. So that is something that we are very, very proud of. We are one of the top Boys and Girls Clubs in the nation by size, by revenue, and hopefully by innovation and the work that we are doing. I think it's very important to know that if you go anywhere around the country, there are thousands of Boys and Girls Clubs, some large, some small, but you will know that you're in a Boys and Girls Clubs. They have a similar feeling, similar programming, but there's something a little different about each and every one that makes them special and unique. And for us, I really believe it's the innovative nature of our staff. I am hopefully a visionary leader and one that really challenges my staff to make mistakes. You know, like let's try, let's do, let's create, let's just not be status quo. Because if you do that, then you're going to be a status quo organization. And so that is not my goal. And there are several things that we're doing now that we are leading out through the nation. We just came back from our national conference in Atlanta last week. And it's often interesting. We have board members that go and people will talk about, oh, we're doing these innovative things. And they're like, well, we've been doing this for the last year, 2 or 3. And so what's innovative? And I'm like, that's the point exactly. We want to lead and really, have the other ones come behind us in our tailwinds, because I think that makes us special. So a few of the things that we are really doing that are important. Trauma-informed care. I spoke about COVID, and I think that all of us understand that while the pandemic is over, the effects of COVID are not over. Our young people are still feeling the effects. Frankly, I'm sure most of us are still feeling the effects. We may not think we are, but I think all of us have had to readjust our lives based upon the things that happened from COVID. But what I do know is our young people have not recovered, and the recovery is slower than I think many expected. Their grades are not as good. Their social skills are definitely not as good. Their learning is 2 years, 1 year behind where they were, which was already behind where they should be. So we've got a lot of issues that these young people are dealing with. And I will say, frankly, that we see the trauma in our kids. It is one more major factor that has affected kids that already oftentimes have traumatic lives. Whether it's the stable family life, whether it's the economics, whatever those things are, this is one more major thing. And sometimes it's just that one thing that pushes them over the edge. The other thing that you'll note is that many kids are not back in school. The truancy rate is still extremely high. And so for us to have kids after school, kids need to be in school. So we as an organization are affected by many things. During COVID, our numbers went down dramatically because kids weren't going to school, which is why we never closed, but we had learning pods for young people. So many of our kids didn't have computers, and quiet as it's kept. I know they say they gave everybody one, but not really. But they didn't have computers and they didn't have broadband access. So we made sure that kids could come to the clubs and do their schoolwork. So we had kids coming in at 7:30 in the morning, staying till 3 o'clock when school was over. And then we did our youth development programming, just really having these kids come into the club during COVID, having their schoolwork, but also them providing 4 hours of after school programming. So we were really with these kids, sometimes 12, 13, 14 hours a day. And I mention that for 2 reasons. One is our commitment to young people in this community. And we're in the full DMV with 25 locations, 5 clubs in DC. But the other thing is your support every year helps us do this. I never want anyone to think that their $5, $500, $50,000, whatever that is not important to this organization, because all funds help us to help these kids in our community, and they need us more than ever before. So trauma-informed care, we have new staff people, and we anticipate by the end of next year, all of our staff will be trauma-informed in the manner that they work with kids. So that is very important for their maturation and just their well-being. You mentioned our Center of Transformation. This is something that came out of our strategic plan during COVID. We wanted to make sure that we had the most innovative programming. We were not building buildings, so we really wanted to build really cool programs. So a great program focused on our teens, Center of Transformation, which has workforce, STEM, DEI, and advocacy as the 4 pillars. But the overarching thing is global climate change and sustainability, which is something that our kids will be living with for the rest of their lives. And so we created a program which piloted last year for our teens, but also we have included teens from around the country at other Boys and Girls Clubs. And that's where the innovative part came from. The BGCA CEO says that what we're doing is unprecedented in Boys and Girls Club land with over 4 million children. We had last year about 45 kids that participated in this 10-week program and then came to DC last June for a week of immersion into global climate change, but also being able to go to corporate headquarters, being able to go to the monuments and the tours at the Capitol Hill and many other things that they did during that week. We are in our second year. Our numbers have grown. We have now 165 kids that participated in that program. And on June 16th, we will have 55 young people in our program this year. We've added a career fair to that because we want them to know about various careers and, just what's out there. So it has become very popular. We have kids coming from Puerto Rico, Alabama, even Canada. So very innovative, very well received. And I think truly one of those feathers in our cap that speaks to our innovation. What is also wonderful about that is the kids get to collaborate with each other and meet young people from other places. But for all but one kid last year was the first time they'd ever stayed in a hotel or been on a plane. These are those types of life-changing experiences that may not seem like a big deal as you sit here, but if you really think about it, these are the things that give kids confidence, allow them to grow, and really have the confidence to achieve their dreams. So we feel really good about this program. So Center of Transformation. We mentioned that our Youth of the Year from the Jelliff Club last year was the National Youth of the Year. It was the 75th anniversary of that program. So Asha was that Youth of the Year. I will say that in 23, we had a finalist. She did not win. She came in second place. But to go to nationals 2 times in a row speaks to the strength of our youth development programming. And then our $30 million campaign for All In. We are at 90% of goal right now. So we're right over 27 million. And that campaign is now public. So if you go to our website, you will see a lot about it. I also brought a couple of brochures in case anybody is interested and wants to know, but we're focused on capital. We are focused on programming and endowment. So those are our 3 areas. So if you want to learn more, it's there and on our website. And then I will tell you, we have events. I know that you all often like to come to events. So our big Blue Fest Gala is coming up on June 20th. And it's going to be at the Reagan Building. And the thing about this is it focuses on the excellence of our young people. So while we love the newscasters on TV and we like to have adults speak, this is really about our kids. So they run the program. And we bring the club to the event so that people understand just the work that we're doing is right there with them. So if you want information about that, I also have it, and it's also on our website too. So that's kind of a synopsis of what's going on. We are doing great things, and I think we're very pleased with the work that we're doing with our young people. And the young people are telling us we're doing great work by their surveys. But one thing I did want to talk about today is Jelliff is, I'll go back a little bit. We used to own the Jelliff building for many, many years. 15 years ago, we sold that building back to the city, along with several other buildings to to garner funds when the organization needed funds to continue to operate. So we have had a contract with DC government since that time through Parks and Rec to support young people. And this year, we just found out 2 weeks ago that the district government did not include us in their budget. So our $610,000 that is in there for every year to operate JELF, which we have done for the past 72 years, was not there. And so right now, we are having conversations. Now, one of the things that I'll mention about the JELF building is that they are about to rebuild, well, I should say build. They're going to tear it down and build a new JELF. They have approved $28 million, the city has, for this. And I think it's quite sad that they have approved $28 million to build the building, but they've approved zero to fund the children that belong in the building. So we are, as you can imagine, having conversations with the mayor and city council to get this put back into the budget. But I would like to ask everyone's help. I have brought some letters. If you feel that it's important for our kids to have a safe place to be in the afternoon and to be able to go to JELF and to have the funding that we've had for many years, we would love you to reach out to your council members, to Chairman Mendelson, to the mayor. Brooke Pinto is a council member in Ward 2, and then any of the other ones. We need to make this something that the city understands, the city government knows that is important to the citizens of Washington, D.C. So I ask for your help there. And there's just, if you can send a quick email, a tweet, whatever, we would be very, very appreciative. So again, I have some notes on that. But I think that's really what I have to say for the day. We're a vibrant, innovative organization taking care of kids as we have for the past 138 years. And hopefully we'll be here another 138 years to support these young people and their families. So thank you.
Our connection, like how did we get connected, Rotary and the Boys and Girls Club?
Okay. Yeah, I think Jen mentioned a little bit of that, but Mr. JELF, I think there was a JELF's department store back in the day. And if I'm not mistaken, Jim Davis, who is our board chair, built Mr. JELF's house. But anyway, that's another thing. But there is a definite connection. So Mr. JELF was very much involved with Boys and Girls Clubs as well as Rotary. And so our JELF Club is on S Street, right off Wisconsin Avenue, right next to the Safeway, the Gucci Safeway, everybody knows. So we are in Ward 2 and have been there for, as I said, 72 years serving kids, but as well as basketball leagues and skating. It's the only club that we have that's open 7 days a week. And Bob Stowers, if anybody has ever been in that club, has been with that club for over 50 years as an employee, and he's an institution in this city. Now, that's a little bit of background. I hope that worked. But why did they pull the funds? I think they assumed that the building would be ready to be torn down and to start the build earlier in 2024. Our funding stopped September of this fall. The building, as we understand it, the process will take at least 12 months from now. So we're looking at May, June on for this to happen. So maybe they thought this was a great way to recover $600,000 in their budget, but we need funding now for the kids. We will need it while the building is being built, and we will need it afterwards. So this is not like take it away. Once someone takes away your money, it is very hard to recoup it. We need to stay in the budget all the time as we have. And I think it's even more imperative considering, I mean, yes, they did help us when we needed funds by buying the building. I'd rather own the building and get the money back at this point because it is certainly worth more. But we just need the funds to support the kids. There are 31,000 times a year the door opens to that building. And, you know, we serve a couple thousand unique children every year. They don't have anywhere else to go after school. And whether they're 7 years old or 17 years old, the programming that they have and that they care about and need will be discontinued. And that's frankly unacceptable.
I'm going to ask about the trauma, called trauma care.
Trauma-informed care.
Trauma-informed care.
Yes.
Are these professional therapists that are working with you? Okay, and I guess the whole thing about trauma-informed care is that all the kids, like you said, have trauma, but there's so much gun violence in this city, and these kids are being murdered and shot every day.
Yeah.
So how does that, these kids are in your system, I suspect.
Yeah, well, so we have children all over the city and the DMV. I think that depending upon where you live in this city, you may very well be a victim of violence. There are some wards, some areas that are more prone to that. But I don't want to stand here and have you assume that our young people are part of the system. Our kids come to us however they are. Some of our kids do have violent things that have happened to them. Others are just kids who need a place to be. So if you come to Ward 2 to Jelliff and come in, we have kids that her parents are ambassadors and kids that come from Ward 8 because they want to come to that club. So it is very much a melting pot. So we have all kinds of kids. But what I will say is we have a lot of teens in our programming. And that is very hard to do because teens vote with their feet. They can be anywhere they want to be in the afternoons. If they choose to come to the club, wouldn't you rather have them in a program learning about finance, getting ready for college, getting work force development programming, and just creating relationships versus hanging out? Hanging out is not a good thing for kids, whether they're younger or teenagers. It creates issues. It's not productive. And so we want our kids in the clubs doing something and know where they are, and their parents feel good about them being safe. So trauma-informed care, I will just go back to that, is yes, we have people that are, social work, psychology background that support us internally. And then we have partners that we work with when we have issues that are beyond what our training allows.
Thank you for talking with us today. First off, I just want to let you know that growing up and going to Georgetown Day School, I played both soccer and basketball at Jealous Boys Club every day after school. So I have an affinity for that property. How do you all compete with the telephone, and how does the telephone diminish social skills? And how would you comment on sort of a pervasive decline in social interaction as a result of our phones?
Yeah, you said telephone. I know you mean cell phone because they don't even know how to use a telephone. I remember the phone. I think that's what's important. We do have rules in the clubs around cell phone usage. It's not that they cannot have them, but we limit use, and we also limit what they can watch. So we have many things blocked when you come into our clubs so that our kids really focus on what they're doing in the clubs. I had a visitor to us, and I'll say at Jelliff, we had probably about 25 teens in a room. They were collaborating. They were doing Bloomberg stock reports, and some were doing Center of Transformation, and some were actually tutoring other kids. And their remark is, I don't see the kids on the phone. And I'm like, yeah, it's pretty common. I'm not saying they never are, but I think when you provide interaction with young people, if you provide them something that they're interested in and engaged in, and you capture their attention, I think that they realize that there are other things beyond the phone. And I think the phone is the fallback. You look at your phone. I think we all do it. You have nothing else to do, so you look at your phone. We give them things to do so they don't have to look at the phone. So that's really what we do. We try to be fun and engaging and productive. And thank you for coming to Jelliff. You know that because of that, you are actually a club kid and an alumni. So 5 o'clock this afternoon, we will be at Jelliff and we will be having rallies and press conferences. So we invite you all to come out and support us. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Great friend of your predecessor, Pat. I forget her last name. What was her last name?
Pat Shannon?
Yes. Yes.
Pat, I hate to say, Pat Shannon passed away a couple of months ago.
Oh, I didn't know that.
She was our CEO from 95 to 2005. Yeah, she did. She passed away, I think, in February.
Wow. I just want to say I'm a big fan of the Boys Club. I had an experience when I was 11 years old with Boys Club. And so I was kind of getting in trouble. They said you should go to the Boys Club. So I used to hang out at the Boys Club. And then I joined their boxing team. And I really liked that. So one day we had a match and across town. It was in Denver, Colorado. And so I was supposed to be there and I missed the bus. So I had to go all the way across. So it was all the way across town. And they said, if you're not there, you're going to forfeit the match. We need you there. So I ran to the other side of the city, which is like 7 miles, to get there in time to meet my match. Well, it have it be, my partner, who I was supposed to fight, didn't show up, so I won the match. So from that, I got to tell you this. They said, they made me Boy of the Month, Member of the Month, or Boy
Yep.
of the Month.
Member
My
of the
name,
month, yeah.
what is it?
Member of the month. We
Member of the
still
month,
do
yeah.
it, yes.
So they had my name in the door as I walked in for a whole month.
Yeah.
And so I just, I was there until I was too old. After that, I talked to Pat and I told Pat about when she came, she was at Rotary, and she says, and so people will say, I go to Rotary on Wednesdays, and they say, oh, is that an adult boys club? So not quite, but yeah.
No.
So I want to tell you, thank you. We got to keep doing this for our kids. They stay out of trouble. And it's a very, very fun place for me. So thank you and your organization.
Thank you. I meet people so often that talk about their experiences and how Boys and Girls Club really shaped them. And 20 years later, 50 years later, whatever that is, they still talk about the effect that it had on them in their lives and helping build that character and into those next steps. So,
well, it shaped me. I went to the Boys and Girls, started going to the Jelliff Club when I was 15 to shoot pool.
20 years ago.
Yeah, it was probably about 15 years ago. And it was just a wonderful place. We had great fun down there. And then as I grew up and became a professional with the Automobile Dealer Association, we got the dealers involved with, sponsoring various events that the club would do, with Pat Shannon and Archie Avedish. Really brings back memories. Yourself.
Thank you.
And you all just do a fabulous job. And we couldn't be more proud to be connected with you here at Rotary. And I'm just wondering what sort of things that Rotary does with the Boys and Girls Clubs now. Do you think are significant and that we ought to enhance, or maybe there's some areas that we need to get more involved in?
Yeah, first of all, if you're including me with Pat and Archie, I take that as a very high compliment, sir. So thank you.
I do indeed. You do a heck of a job.
Thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. We have talked off and on about Rotary and Boys and Girls Clubs doing some things, and then I think COVID kind of, took us off track. So, I think there are plenty of opportunities to really partner together and do some volunteer activities. We just haven't really had that in-depth conversation recently, but I'm always open to that. We have boards. I will say we have probably 125 board members because we have a board in each region that support our kids. We have committees, we have events. So there are plenty of opportunities for people to get engaged. We have volunteers that come to us once a year and some that come 3 or 4 times a week. So I think it just really depends what people are interested in individually or collectively as the Rotary. But, let's have that conversation. And Jerry, I want to talk to you before you go, because we're doing a campaign now of some of our longtime, just fabulous alumni. And I think it would be great to include you. So don't leave until I see you.
Thank you so much for an excellent presentation, the good work you're doing. And by the way, I'm a psychologist, so I'm very impressed that you're doing trauma-informed
Thank you.
interactions with children and adolescents. But this is super maddening to hear that they're cutting the funding for the children and families. And it reminds me that yesterday I got an advertisement from Phil Mendelson in the mail that there are being funds cut for families and children in the DC area by Mayor Bowser. And I was curious if this extends beyond the Boys and Girls Club and if you know anything more about it. Thank you.
I do know that the budget is, probably been reduced in some areas, but I know it's also been increased in some other areas. I mean, we frankly support the mayor and the council. We just don't support the decision that they made about cutting our funding. When I turn on the news every day, I see something about, youth violence and, curfews and so forth. And I think that it's imperative that we work with young people from, first grade throughout to really help the parents develop that baseline for character for young people. And if you can get that instilled in young people early, then they do the right things. I've talked to a number of people and heard from others that have gotten in trouble. And I say, why did this happen? And they typically say, because I had nothing else to do. And so we try to make sure that these young people have something purposeful and meaningful to do, so that it keeps them from doing other things. And it helps create college students and people that want to go out and work and build a better life for themselves, create generational wealth, which is very, very important. So yeah, I don't know why, man, but I think it's, again, a terrible decision.
Following this intelligent question, do you have a statistic that show how the violence is decreasing with your children versus others who don't have a disorder?
Yeah, we
to show to the mayor.
No,
mayor.
we don't have a statistic that says that, but what we do know is 100% of our kids graduate from high school on time. About 95 to 98% of them go on to college. And in the 7 years that I've been here, we have 0 teen pregnancy rate. What I'm saying is I don't want to ever say that if our kids are not in the club that they would be doing things that are violent or wrong. That is not the connotation that I want to give. What my connotation is that kids involved, engaged, and doing the right things are the good kids. I can't speak to other kids. I can only speak about the benefit of the Boys and Girls Clubs and what our kids do. So, yeah.
Thank you very much
Hi.
for your presentation. My name is Kenny Barnes. Do you have the demographics? What are the demographics today?
The demographics?
About the Boys and Girls.
Sure. So our demographics, thank you so much, Mr. Barnes. Our demographics, we're almost 50-50 boys and girls. Maybe a little bit more boys, 52, 53%. Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Washington is about 90% Black and brown kids. And it looks different whether we're in Ward 7 or Ward 8 versus Ward 2 or in Germantown or in Prince William County. So every club looks different, but primarily Black and brown kids of various socioeconomic backgrounds.
Thank you, first of all, for your presentation every single year. And I think what you do is, I know it was pivotal in my life, even at 27 years old, not particularly here, but the Boys and Girls Club in general, because actually the PAL, the Boys and Girls Club in Plainfield, New Jersey, was the actual first place that I had my first amateur fight. Yes. So that was huge for me. And it was actually the first place that accepted, as a community organization, besides just the gyms, that accepted girls to do the boxing as well. So I want to thank you for that. Thank the Girls and Boys Club for that, because you've gone on to make some huge champions, as well as basketball players too, as we know, basketball players. But also, we have a presentation for you.
Hi. Good. Thank you. We obviously honor the Boys and Girls Club a lot, and our foundation has a check for you for $96,000. Hopefully that'll help your capital fund a little bit.
Thank you. This is lovely. We appreciate this. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, don't lose this
Okay.
one. But
No, I'm not gonna lose it.
yeah, right.
Okay. Thank you. Well, I've got a photographer taking this picture better than Sterling. So what you all don't know is Sterling, I used to work for Kodak back in the 1990s, and Sterling was one of my customers when I was with Kodak. So so I know he can take good pictures.
Okay, well, thank you for all you do.
Thank you for this. We really appreciate your support. And frankly, we cannot do the work that we do without the support of many. So we really, really appreciate this.
Our club has a tradition, as you already know. Is this like your eighth one? Okay, you 7. So here we are. You have a forest, yes. You know, we have a tradition here at the club that we give each of our speakers, plant a tree in your honor and in the name of, well, you for speaking here. And there's a coordinates there that you can actually locate your tree. Yes. You can go hug your tree.
I might do that.